Let me introduce you to Clermont Rules Football, a new way to play the game. I'm Jay Myers. I designed the new game. Clermont Rules is a new non-contact alternative to tackle football. This introduction presents the main features of the game. For a complete description, click on the link shown here. Why did I design this game? Tackle football is in jeopardy because of safety concerns, most of them having to do with brain injuries due to collisions that are fundamental to the game. In fact, tackle football may be close to collapsing, and those of us who would hate to see the whole thing vanish as a mainstream sport need to get going on a replacement. And what would that be? 1. A non-contact game to reduce the risk of injurious collisions to near zero. 2. A game that incorporates major features of tackle football. And 3. A game at least as challenging to play and as exciting to watch as the tackle game. No existing sport fills the bill. Rugby is a collision sport. Soccer and lacrosse are too unlike tackle football. But what about flag football and touch football? There are many popular versions of those two games. All of them incorporate major features of the tackle game, and some are non-contact sports. But would any of them work out as an interscholastic, intercollegiate, and professional sport? In my opinion, no. They're too watered down, not challenging enough, not exciting enough for today's tackle fans. They don't have enough to make up for the loss of the hard blocking, hard running, and hard tackling of the tackle game. Clermont Rules incorporates major features of tackle football. It's played on the same field and with the same ball as tackle football. It has forward passes, punts, downs, touchdowns, conversions, and field goals. Clermont Rules also imports challenging and exciting features from forms of football played in other countries. For example, a player may kick the ball to a teammate for gain, as in Australian rules football. The teammate may take possession of the ball by catching it, picking it up, or falling on it. However he takes possession of the ball, he is said to capture it. In Clermont Rules, as in rugby, a player may even kick the ball to himself. He can do that by kicking the ball along the ground beyond the player who's guarding him, then cutting around that player and picking up the ball or falling on it. Clermont Rules also incorporates challenging and exciting features not seen in any other form of football. For example, the chain rule provides for continuous action after a catch, a capture, or an interception that does not result in a touchdown. A new line of scrimmage is established, but the play continues without interruption. In other words, the players keep right on playing. The chain rule helps make Clermont Rules a game of almost non-stop action, as opposed to tackle football, which has frequent and long periods of inaction. Several years ago, researchers calculated that, on average, there were only 11 minutes of action from the beginning to the end of a professional football game. More on the chain rule later in this introduction. So in Clermont Rules, which is not tackle football, flag football, or touch football, how does the defense stop the ball carrier? It doesn't. With one exception to be described later, the ball carrier may not run the ball across the line of scrimmage. But how does the defense stop a player who's become a ball carrier by catching a pass or capturing a kick beyond the line of scrimmage? The answer to that question comes from the chain rule. The catch or capture establishes a new line of scrimmage in front of the new ball carrier, and with the exception just mentioned, he may not run the ball across that line. But how does the defense stop a ball carrier from holding the ball indefinitely while somebody downfield gets open for a pass or kick? It doesn't. The six-step rule prohibits ball carriers from standing still or walking. The first ball carrier may take up to 6 running steps behind the line of scrimmage. By the end of his run, he must make one of 4 moves, all of which also occur in tackle football. 1. Hand the ball off to a teammate behind the line of scrimmage. 2. Throw the ball. 3. kick it across the line, or 4, hold it for a place kick. In Clermont Rules, a ball carrier has 4 ways to throw the ball, all of which also occur in tackle football. 1, toss it to a teammate who's behind the line of scrimmage. 2, spike it. 3, pass it across the line of scrimmage, attempting to complete the pass. And 4, ground it by throwing it away beyond the line. When a ball carrier hands the ball off or tosses it to a teammate who is behind the line of scrimmage, he is said to transfer the ball. The 3 transfer rule permits the offense to make up to 3 transfers. The 6-step rule applies to the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd ball carriers. The 4th ball carrier may take up to 6 running steps. Then he must either pass the ball across the line or kick it across the line. The 3 transfer rule enables plays to develop in challenging and exciting ways not seen in any other form of football. A defensive player may rush a ball carrier to block or intercept a pass or kick, but another offensive player may set a screen on the defensive player, as in basketball. A player may also set a screen beyond the line of scrimmage. He might do that to free up a teammate to receive a pass or a kick. However, to minimize the likelihood of collisions, after the ball crosses the line, no player may obstruct an opposing player's path to the ball. Also, to minimize the likelihood of collisions, if opposing players are about to collide on the way to a pass or a kick, the defensive player must give way. Before explaining the chain rule, let me explain how a team advances the ball. All downs begin on 5-yard stripes. The 5-yard stripes are the lines drawn across the field every 5 yards, but not the goal lines. That is, the 5-yard stripes are the 5-yard lines, the 10-yard lines, the 15-yard lines, and so on. To be clear, the goal lines are stripes, but not 5-yard stripes. A game begins on the offensive 20-yard stripe, and the offense advances the ball by passing and kicking. For a pass or a kick to be complete, it must cross 2 or more stripes, which may include a goal line. When a team completes a pass or a kick but does not score a touchdown, a new line of scrimmage is established, as in tackle football. But the location of the line is not what it would be in tackle football. Instead, with one exception, the new line is the next 5-yard stripe. For example, if a completion occurs on the offensive 27-yard line, the new line of scrimmage is the offensive 30-yard stripe. If a completion occurs on the defensive 27-yard line, the new line of scrimmage is the defensive 25-yard stripe. The exception exists because the line of scrimmage may not be a goal line. So, if a completion occurs beyond the defensive 5-yard stripe, for example on the 3-yard line, the new line of scrimmage is the 5-yard stripe. According to the chain rule, after the completion, play continues uninterrupted. Players do not have to retreat behind the new line of scrimmage. The 6-step rule and the 3 transfer rule take effect immediately. If the offense then completes another pass or kick but does not score a touchdown, the chain rule applies again. This action may go on and on. In other words, a chain may have many links. The chain rule also applies when a team intercepts a pass or kick. For example, if an interception occurs on the offensive 27-yard line, the new line of scrimmage is what had been the offensive 25-yard stripe. If an interception occurs on the defensive 27-yard line, the new line of scrimmage is what had been the defensive 30-yard stripe. After an interception, play continues without interruption, with the team that made the interception, the defense, now the offense. The chain rule keeps a game of Clermont Rules moving right along. Here are some other features that keep it moving. A player may not make the ball go out of bounds, either purposely or accidentally. If the ball does go out of bounds, that player's team gets a penalty. There's a 25-second play clock. The game clock keeps running after a team scores and after an incomplete pass. There's no 2-minute warning, and players and coaches may not call time out. There's no instant replay. The breakaway rule brings an extra element of challenge and excitement to the game. This rule takes precedence over the rule prohibiting a ball carrier from crossing the line of scrimmage. It's the exception mentioned earlier. If no defensive player is in the end zone, the ball carrier may run across the line of scrimmage and break for the goal line. No defensive player may obstruct him. If he crosses the goal line before the entire defense, he scores a breakaway touchdown, which is worth 9 points. If any defensive player crosses the goal line first, the offense is penalized. Here's one way the breakaway rule would work. The receivers run short routes, and the defense covers the receivers tightly. But no defensive player stays deep. Suddenly, one receiver goes deep. He's too fast for the defense. The ball carrier kicks a long punt, which hits the ground ahead of the receiver, beyond the defensive 15-yard stripe. The receiver captures the ball on the bounce. The chain rule takes effect, establishing a new line of scrimmage at the defensive 10-yard stripe. But the receiver, now the ball carrier, elects to use the breakaway rule. He just keeps running, and he beats the entire defense to the end zone. Breakaway touchdown, 9 points. To provide the challenge and excitement of wide-open play, there are only 9 players on a side, and all players are eligible pass receivers. To encourage long passes and kicks, Clermont Rules shares a feature with a version of rugby known as rugby league. A team has 6 downs in which to score. Teams do not play for first downs as they do in tackle football. To add an element of position management, Clermont Rules does not use hash marks. A down may begin as close to a sideline as 1 yard. And to add challenge and excitement when the score is close, Clermont Rules picks up the single, also called a rouge, from Canadian football. A player may score a single, which is worth 1 point, by kicking the ball over the end line. A player may score a field goal by punting the ball between the uprights. This is how goals are scored in Australian rules football. Clermont Rules also incorporates the place kicking of field goals from tackle football, as well as the rarely used technique of drop kicking. Conversions are also more challenging and exciting in Clermont Rules than in tackle football. A conversion starts on the 10-yard stripe. It is worth 2 points, and it may be made by kicking or passing to a teammate or by kicking the ball between the uprights. To summarize the main rules that separate Clermont Rules from other forms of football. For the 6-step rule, up to 6 running steps, 1 of 4 moves. For the 3-transfer rule, up to 3 transfers, 4th ball carrier must pass or kick across the line. For the chain rule, if no touchdown, play continues without interruption. For the breakaway rule, run the ball across the line of scrimmage, race to the goal line. I am working now to put Clermont Rules Football on the field. If you'd like to participate, please contact me at the email address shown here. But before you do that, please check the Clermont Rules blog to make sure that you have the current version of this presentation.